The funniest thing about Meghan Markle's deranged display in Montecito over the weekend with Ted Sarandos, the Netflix boss, is that she hasn't realized yet. You're the one being played, Meghan.
Your business partnership is collapsing. Your cooking show was canceled. Your brand lost its backer. And your place to show up at the man's house, grab his wife's hand and pose for Getty images like everything is fine? That takes a very specific kind of audacity, and nobody does audacity like Meghan.
They made sure that Carey Mulligan did not come in until Meghan Markle had left. And she didn't want to leave. She was making everybody's life a misery because she wanted to be present because she's the Duchess. But no, honey, you have lost big time. That's how much Meghan Markle's stock has fallen. She was kicked out and Harry was embarrassed and apologizing to Ted Sarandos once again for his wife's lack of sensitivity or listening to people or following a simple dress code.
She is very, very worried, nervous. She's on the back foot. She knows Netflix is gone. She knows Netflix is moving on, and she's sort of freaking out about it. They know the gravy train is ending, and they're just doing anything as humanly possible to gain attention.
44 official photos, one event, and somehow Meghan Markle only appears in one-on-one shots with exactly 2 people. Not Don Johnson, not Michael Keaton, not even Carey Mulligan, the actual headline star of the night. Just the Netflix CEO and his wife. That's it. And that's where things start to stand out, because the real story from the Beef Season 2 screening held at Ted Sarandos' Montecito home on April 10th isn't about the dress. It's about what didn't happen.
Brittany, none of this was a good look. None of this was a good look. She looks truly deranged. We know what she's trying to do here. The problem is, Brittany, it changes nothing. The fact that Ted Sarandos wants her to try and promote big.
While headlines focused on the rare joint appearance, the actual photo record tells a very different story. There were 44 images total, all officially credited to Stephanie Keenan for Netflix. And the guest list was packed with A-listers who, based on those photos, didn't appear in direct moments with Meghan. Here's something important. Official event photos like these are not random.
I mean, she doesn't care about her reputation, does she? Or does she think that the Duchess of Sussex title can take on anything and nothing's going to happen to it? That title, it's already devalued, depreciated, and valued completely. How embarrassing. And no, Meghan Markle doesn't have a model body.
They are curated. Stephanie Keenan is one of the most experienced entertainment photographers in Los Angeles. She covers premieres, award shows, major industry parties. She doesn't just miss key celebrity pairings, especially not ones that would generate headlines. So if Meghan had been standing next to someone like Michael Keaton in a meaningful moment, it likely would have been captured and published. And if it's not there, that usually points to 2 possibilities. Either the moment didn't happen, or it wasn't selected for release.
It is gross, and trust me, I know how fake Hollywood is. I know how fake the entertainment industry is. But Meghan Markle and the Sussex Squad think this is a win for her. Think that this in some way disproves everything that has gone on with Netflix. It doesn't. All she looks is nuts. Totally crazy. Clinging on to Ted Sarandos' wife for dear life.
Now, before jumping to conclusions, it's worth slowing down. Some people suggest ideas like someone being upstaged, but that only makes sense if those interactions actually took place. The photo record suggests something simpler. Meghan appears with the host, with his wife, and briefly in a group shot, positioned more toward the edge than the center. And that's the extent of what's publicly shown. No standout pairings, no extended series of social moments captured on camera. So instead of focusing on the outfit, look at what's missing.
Here's the detail that makes this story even more delicious. 2 weeks before this party, Carey Mulligan walked into Windsor Castle and received a CBE from King Charles, Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Her husband Marcus Mumford was by her side. It was one of the proudest moments of her career. And then, 14 days later, the woman who left that very institution showed up at Carey's Netflix celebration wearing the same color, pulling focus in exactly the way she always does.
He has a normal smile. Hers looks very, very forced to me.
In Hollywood, official photo drops often act as a visual summary of the event. Who connected, who posed together, and what moments were highlighted the next day. There were major names in attendance. Don Johnson, Michael Keaton with his partner Marnie Turner, John Corbett, Nick Kroll, Oscar Isaac, Kaylee Spaney, Charles Melton, Orlando Bloom, Justin Trudeau, and the show's creator, Lee Sung-jin.
Getty Images removed all the pictures from Harry and Meghan Markle at that event. But I think you noticed something here, right? You can see that Carey Mulligan is wearing green. She's the only one wearing green because that was the whole point of it, that she was the star of the show and people had been told to wear black and white so she would stand out because all of these are promotional pictures. The whole show is about her. Meghan Markle had to show up wearing exactly the same color dress as the star of the show.
It was a high-profile gathering with plenty of recognizable faces. Yet none of them appear in a featured individual photo with Meghan Markle. To stay fair, this is where reporting can sometimes go too far, so it's important to stick to what's confirmed. The official Getty release included 44 images. Meghan appears in a group shot with Harry and others. She's seen greeting one guest. There is also a posed moment with the host.
You think this is a big victory, and that somehow all of the stories, which are factual, which is that Netflix has dumped your because Was Never is the worst lifestyle brand in the history of lifestyle brands? Because, what was that show called? I can't even remember. With Love Meghan. With Love Meghan was the worst piece of lifestyle TV programming in the history of lifestyle TV programming. And the fact that they even unfollowed you, Ted included, on social media.
These are all part of the public record. What stands out is that major outlets like The Hollywood Reporter, Fox News, Page Six, and Daily Mail didn't highlight any image showing Meghan paired with other high-profile attendees beyond the host and his wife. That absence is noticeable. Different types of coverage were reviewed, body language analysis, fashion recaps, and even coverage that tends to be more supportive. Across all of it, the same pattern appears. The expected A-list pairings simply don't show up in the official images. Now, it's possible that a brief or background moment exists somewhere in those 44 frames. That can happen at events like this. But when it comes to the main images selected and distributed, those choices are usually intentional.
It's obviously such a PR move from Netflix in a way, because they know Harry and Meghan, the one thing they can get from the couple, for sure, is publicity. Nothing else.
And that context matters. When looking at the full picture, it raises questions. Don Johnson, for example, is a long-established figure in the industry. A photographed moment between attendees of that level would normally be valuable for press coverage.
Meghan tends to get a bit more manic when things aren't going particularly well. You can almost feel the force and emphasis by her to try and make this Hollywood thing work. And despite maybe getting an invitation, or more likely inviting themselves to this event, Harry and Meghan are not doing well in Hollywood. The future is, in fact, is looking quite bleak for them in the entertainment industry.
But it wasn't included in what was released. And in a setting like this, where media output is controlled and deliberate, that kind of absence tends to stand out more than it fades into the background. Michael Keaton is Batman. He's Beetlejuice. He's a two-time Oscar nominee. Carey Mulligan is the actual star of the show the night was built around. These aren't people who wouldn't recognize Meghan Markle.
The body language here is interesting because Ted and Nicole are leaning into each other, but Meghan is leaning towards Nicole as if she's separating herself from Harry. And of course, she's here clutching Nicole's hand. And it's very strange.
These are high-level industry names who were all in the same space, same garden, same event, same atmosphere. Yet the photo record shows no clear moment where they stood beside her long enough for a camera to capture it. That's not a story about someone being overshadowed. It looks more like someone moving around two completely separate circles. And this is where things start to feel a bit uncomfortable, because the one image that did get attention, the one that spread across multiple outlets, was the hug with Nicole Avant.
The relationship is screwed. And the fact that Meghan is so crazed to think that we are just going to take some really weird pictures as evidence rather than actually very in-depth reporting, which has been going on for months and months and months, and now has been confirmed by Variety, the Hollywood Bible, just shows that she really does take people for fools. And that is her problem.
That was the moment. That was the image that carried the coverage. But it didn't land the way it may have been expected to. Judy James, a long-established body language analyst who writes for the Daily Mail, has been doing this for over 2 decades. She's widely quoted, especially among audiences in places like London and Australia, and her interpretations tend to get noticed. In her analysis, she described Meghan's behavior at the Sarandos home using the phrase exaggerated displayed attachment rituals.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe Ted is now friends with Meghan. Let's look at that. After such a display of friendship, Meghan Markle laughing, maybe he followed her on Instagram? Of course not. Of course not.
That alone stood out. But the part that really drew attention was her take on the group photo. She wrote that the way Ted Sarandos and Nicole Avant held their pose as a couple made it appear almost as though Meghan is photobombing their pose. That word, photobombing, is what caught attention. It's not a typical way to describe someone attending an event they were invited to. Not integrated, not central.
Different event, different year, same pattern. Meghan has never met a room she didn't try to make about herself.
Just appearing in a way that didn't fully match the moment being captured. And this connects to a bigger timeline, because the context leading up to that event matters. Just 24 days earlier, on March 17th, Variety published a detailed report by Matt Donnelly that raised serious questions about the Sussex brand's standing in Hollywood.
Meghan Markle's superpower of taking on a beautiful dress and uglying it up. Not only has Meghan Markle uglied her dress and has given her a bad rep, but Meghan Markle hasn't paid for it. I mean, at a certain point, this woman should be accused of theft.
The article cited multiple sources within Netflix, including one claim that described the internal mood as "we're done." According to that same report, several insiders suggested that Ted Sarandos had grown frustrated with the situation. In addition, a past quote from UTA CEO Jeremy Zimmer was brought back into focus, where he said, "Turns out Meghan Markle was not a great audio talent or necessarily any kind of talent." That statement originally came from 2023, but it resurfaced in 2026 as part of the broader discussion. So when looking at the April 10th event, the context becomes important.
This one is the only picture which survived with the Getty images. And here you can see Meghan Markle earlier in the evening standing there. You can see everybody else is wearing black and white. The star of the show is not there yet. She arrived a little bit later. Carey Mulligan, the star of the show, arrived a little bit later after you see that picture, and Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were asked to kindly leave.
The appearance wasn't just a casual night out tied to Beef Season 2. It came shortly after a wave of critical reporting that questioned key industry relationships. In that kind of moment, even a single strong image can carry weight. And that's where the hug photo fits in. It became the defining visual from the event. One image, widely shared, intended to show connection and presence in a high-profile setting. But when that same moment is interpreted publicly as exaggerated or described as photobombing, it shifts how the image is received. Instead of reinforcing a sense of ease or inclusion, it introduces doubt about how natural the interaction actually felt.
Meghan's smart. She knows what she's doing in some ways, and she's also super desperate. And so she's like, I'll wear the same color.
And that changes the tone, because what was meant to support a narrative starts to raise new questions instead. Now shifting to the dress, because that's where most of the attention has been focused across coverage. Multiple outlets have highlighted the same angle, centering on the chartreuse look by Heidi Merrick. And that's exactly why a lot of people are missing the bigger picture. Carey Mulligan wore chartreuse too.
Meghan choosing colors that deliberately clash and trying to steal attention is very, very Meghan, very desperate, very D-list actress, which is what she's always been.
Same color family, same event, that's the real fashion story right there. But the tabloids flipped it into Meghan upstages Beef Season 2 star in matching dress. That sounds dramatic, but once you look closer, that whole angle starts to fall apart because Carey Mulligan is a 3-time Oscar nominee. She was the featured talent of the night. The event was built around her work, and the photos reflect that clearly.
She had to ruin or try to ruin Carey Mulligan's moment, and it showed that Harry and Meghan Markle have lost their pull to be asked to leave a party. That's how bad things were for this woman, and she left angrily. She wasn't smiling when she left.
She's seen standing next to the show's creator. She's pictured in conversation with Oscar Isaac. She's included in group shots with Kaylee Spaney. There's movement, interaction, connection. She's part of the center of the room. Now compare that to Meghan's presence in the same set of images. The same chartreuse tone shows up, but the moments are different. a hug with the host's wife, a limited set of posed images tied closely to the host household, and then that headline from Judy James's column describing her placement in one shot as photobombing. That contrast is hard to ignore. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The dress itself wasn't random.
They rejected Cookie Queens, forcing Harry and Meghan to go with the begging bowl out to the Sundance Film Festival. Honestly, Cookie Queens would have been like pocket money for Ted Sarandos. He could have bought that movie in a flash. And then the big one, of course, which is the confirmation that Netflix no longer has anything to do with As Ever. That is it. That is all we need to know.
Heidi Merrick, the designer Meghan wore, is based in Montecito. Meghan has worn her designs before. This wasn't a last-minute choice. It was a familiar brand, a controlled look, something clearly selected ahead of time. So when you step back, it starts to look very deliberate. The venue was known, the guest list was known, the photographer was known. Every detail leading up to that night had structure behind it. And yet, the final result, based on what was publicly released, was a set of images that only paired Meghan with the host and his immediate circle. Nothing beyond that. The upstaging narrative only works if you assume there was direct competition happening in the room, but the photo record suggests something else entirely.
Netflix is done with Harry and Meghan pretty much. Like, they're gonna have some peripheral interactions on some projects, but I don't think they have any real creative control over anything. I don't think Netflix is really gonna buy anything from them at this point unless it's something actually quite good. And Harry and Meghan, they just have no creative talent here. They shouldn't have gone off to Hollywood. Meghan didn't make it before in Hollywood, and a royal title has not changed that.
It doesn't show someone competing for attention. It shows someone operating on the edge of a space where the main interactions were already happening elsewhere. Don Johnson doesn't need to compete for attention. Michael Keaton doesn't need to compete. Carey Mulligan was the focus of the entire night. The structure of the event already defined where the attention would go. So instead of a clash, what appears in the images is distance. Not dramatic conflict, just separation. And that's where the wider context starts to matter, because events like this don't exist on their own. They connect to what's happening behind the scenes, especially when it comes to ongoing projects and partnerships. Looking at platform performance gives some perspective. Reports placed with Love, Meghan Season 1 relatively low in Netflix rankings for early 2025. By the second half of the year, Season 2 reportedly dropped much further down the list. That kind of shift doesn't suggest momentum, it suggests a project struggling to stay visible. Other related releases show a similar pattern.
Netflix has got to realize that Harry and Meghan, the noise they generate is basically always negative.
The Polo documentary connected to Prince Harry was noted in coverage as not drawing major numbers. Additional projects tied to the same circle also reported modest viewership compared to larger Netflix hits, which often reach tens of millions. When numbers like that are placed side by side, the gap becomes clear. And then there's how projects get described publicly. In early 2026, Page Six reported that, with Love, Meghan would not return as a full series. Later, the wording shifted in Variety, where it was described more as a seasonal special. And that may sound like a small change, but the meaning behind it is easy to read. Same situation, just softer language. And industry rooms pick up on that kind of shift quickly. Another layer comes from the lifestyle brand tied to Meghan. In March 2026, reports indicated that Netflix stepped back from its equity involvement in that venture. There were also claims about unsold inventory remaining, with some items reportedly distributed internally. Even without focusing on every detail, the overall direction is clear. This was a partnership that didn't continue as initially planned. And all of that forms the backdrop to the April 10th event. Because moments like the beef screening don't happen in isolation. They sit inside a bigger timeline, one shaped by performance numbers, media coverage, and business decisions happening behind closed doors. So when looking at the photos, it's not just about who wore what or who stood next to who.
They've known now for sure that Meghan Markle cannot convert the way she claimed to in terms of products. As ever, products did not move, that's why they pulled out. And so they do know that the only thing Harry and Meghan can do is generate a lot of noise. And so they're leveraging that to help this series.
It's about what the images show and what they don't. This all happened fast. 24 days after that Variety report citing 6 internal sources, just 4 days after Netflix stepped away from the lifestyle brand deal, and on the exact same day, a separate legal story involving Prince Harry became public in the High Court of England and Wales. That's a lot hitting at once. Multiple headlines, same timeline, and out of all of it, the most widely shared image from the event ended up being that hug, the same one a body language analyst described as exaggerated. When that becomes the main photo, it naturally raises questions about what didn't make it into public view. Now, to stay grounded, there's an important line that shouldn't be crossed. There's no official document stating that Meghan Markle was ignored at a private event. There's no direct statement from attendees confirming anything like that. Nobody outside that space can claim firsthand knowledge of every interaction. Everything here comes from publicly available material. The 44-photo Getty release, the Variety reporting based on industry sources, the column by Judy James, audience and ranking data reported by outlets, and the guest list that multiple publications confirmed. That's the full set of information being looked at. But when all of it is placed side by side, a pattern starts to form. First, there were 44 official photos released from the event. In those, Meghan appears in individual pairings with two people.
At what point in time is Charles going to stop interfering and defending and promoting and protecting these two idiots? Because people don't understand that there is a connection there, and Charles is always behind it. He's not given up on his darling boy coming back to the United Kingdom, and if he can't bring him back yet, he's gonna make sure that he is seen in Hollywood, or that he doesn't lose face, and that, or that he saves face with Meghan Markle, especially after that Variety show came up.
Both directly connected to Netflix. Second, the guest list included several widely recognized names with global visibility. Yet none of them appear in individual, featured pairings with her in the distributed images. Third, the one moment that did stand out, the hug with Nicole Avant, was interpreted in a way that wasn't entirely positive by a well-known body language commentator who described it as exaggerated and referenced the idea of photobombing. Fourth, a senior Netflix executive publicly responded to the surrounding narrative by saying, "Don't believe whatever you read, there's no juicy story here." That statement exists on record. At the same time, the earlier Variety report cited multiple unnamed sources expressing a very different internal mood. Both things can exist side by side, even if they point in different directions. Fifth, the same day all of this unfolded, coverage centered heavily on the chartreuse dress. That became the headline focus. But the photo set itself, those 44 images, offered a separate layer of information that didn't always match the tone of those headlines. That contrast is where the conversation really sits, because based on the available visuals, this wasn't about someone taking attention away from others. The images don't show that kind of dynamic. Instead, they show a more limited set of interactions, mostly centered around the host and immediate circle. And in a setting like this, that kind of detail stands out. Event photography at this level is rarely accidental. The images that get released are selected carefully. They highlight moments that are meant to represent the atmosphere of the night. So when certain pairings appear and others don't, that becomes part of the story. Looking at it that way, the photos give a structured snapshot of which interactions were emphasized publicly and which ones weren't. That doesn't automatically explain why, but it does shape how the event is perceived afterward. Looking ahead, the timeline continues. Within a few days of this event, Prince Harry and Meghan were expected to travel to Australia for a public appearance. Reports mentioned high ticket prices for associated events and ongoing public discussion around security arrangements. Those developments add another layer to the situation, and they suggest that the next phase of coverage will likely shift focus again. Because moments like this don't stay isolated, they connect to what comes next and how the story continues to evolve. Got something to say about this? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get into it. If this breakdown made you see things differently, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Tap that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it.